First I shall sketch this breakfast arrangement. I'm using a 2B pencil so that it doesn't put too much lead on the watercolour paper, and I don't intend on rubbing it out because that would actually lift some of the surface and some of the size of the paper, which isn't terribly good when you start to use watercolour. It's a good idea when you're doing ellipses to run the rings all the way round if you're not sure. In this case I've got a transparent glass so I can actually see the ellipse of the orange juice within the glass. And it's very much foreshortened because I'm standing above the subject. I don't know where I got these little salt and pepper chickies from, but they're rather sweet. Probably got them from a little market somewhere. But they're rather nice. Again, I'm looking down on the subject, so it's about looking rather than second guessing what they look like from the side. Okay, we've got a salt here and we have a pepper here. Something like that. And a sort of elongated oval dish. And then this space is very important, a negative space, to ascertain where that plate starts there in relation to the mug and where it goes round in relation to the salt and pepper tray. And then I'm above it, so I'm seeing quite a lot of the ellipse, an open ellipse. You may not get it right first time. It does help when you're standing above the paper to draw an ellipse correctly. Okay, don't mind a few scribble marks. Then I've got to get the egg in. That's the top of the egg, and then we've got another ellipse. Made a bit of a rod for my own back here, but still. And we still have to check that everything is level, because everything's on a level table, on a level floor. So the ellipses still have to be fairly level. Okay. Okay. So let's go down, then we've got the base, which comes round underneath, like so, and then the spoon overlaps that quite a bit. And that's the top of the egg. Unfortunately I've cooked it too long, so it's a little bit hard, but never mind, I can have it in my salad later. And there's the spoon. Okay, and then we've got some slices of bread here, tucked in quite close, because it's quite a small plate I've put out here. And bread's quite fun to do. And then the crust. Like that, a bit of butter on it, I can paint that in later. And then that goes on there, and then we've got another bit of bread coming out the top. The egg is like this, and the shell is like this, and the bread then comes out the back. It's all in relative position compared to something else that you've drawn. If you can get the first drawing of the first item correct, the other items should fall into place. If the first bit's wrong, then there's a catalogue of drawing that's going to be wrong. Okay, it's not too bad. Okay, time to paint the breakfast things before breakfast turns into lunch, which it is. I'm looking at my subject matter. There is a lot of orange in here, so I'm going to choose a blue that complements this orange, because the two, orange and blue, are complementary colours. And then I will pick up the third primary colour to probably, I think I'll go for rose, that will give me some purple mixes for some of the shadows, and I'll show you how to grey them down. Okay, so the first layer, I'm going to use new gamboge and placing it in, being careful to leave some of the whites that will form some of the lights in the air in the subject. And the whites have to be the white of the paper with watercolour, otherwise it becomes really chalky if you start putting on pigment, white pigment afterwards. It starts looking exactly like that, but I prefer to use the white of the paper that then comes through, shines through. So put in a little bit of the yellow. I'm even going to put it on the egg, because I can change that into a brown afterwards. I never put yellow under blue, otherwise it will turn green. So I'm going to choose cobalt blue. So I've got gamboge, cobalt blue. Of course you can choose your own colours to suit whatever breakfast you happen to be painting. And with the cobalt blue, I'll put in some of the shadows, leaving the whites, or the highlights white, cutting in and around each chicken. Okay, and this is dark in here. They're still very pale colours. They will still dry 30% lighter, but sometimes it's quite nice to put some of the shadows in, because that's on white subjects. That's all I've really got to paint, is the shadows. I'm leaving a few highlights around the chicken's head there, so that it will stand out against the chicken at the back. I'm going to bring in a little bit of line under here. Soften it off in a very loose way. That's a little bit too blue. Just take a bit off there with a damp dry brush. A damp dry brush, that's a contradiction. With a very dry brush that's slightly damp, I suppose that's what I mean. So now I'm going to come in and do a little bit of shadow, reflective shadow on the plate here. So all the time looking at your subject and trying not to second guess where these marks might go. Okay, let's put a little bit coming in here and here, and a little bit on the edge here. I'll turn a little green, but it won't matter too much. I'm going to pick up a red. There's my third primary colour. Let's use, actually not rose, let's use alizarin crimson. which is a cool dark red. Mixed with the blue will make a purple. And if I add a little tiny bit of yellow, that will grey it down. So while it's still wet, my brush isn't too wet, but the paper is still wet. I'm going to add this soft grey purpley mix. That's the eggshell, that's right. So it's going to come around here, just while the paper's still damp. If I put in a great dollop of water via the wet, or very wet brush, I will end up with cauliflowers, and this is in fact breakfast. I don't usually have cauliflower at breakfast, of course, but you lose control of the watercolour, and that's when you get disappointed with your results. So I'm just going to come in there. So I'm painting in the shadows as I go with this one. Okay, and then that's still slightly damp, so I'm going to risk coming in here. Again, my brush is just holding extra pigment, it's not actually being put back into the water pot at all. So we can get a little bit more control of what's happening. Hopefully not have a cauliflower. In the painting. And then there's a beak here somewhere. And a little bit of dark around the neck. And a bit of sort of reflective light coming across the body of these chicks. A bit of light on just under the chest there, and a little bit under the chest of this one. Coming around here. Just going to rinse the brush off. So what I quite like to do is tie in the subject of the chicks, which are white, and just add a tiny bit of yellow, the gamboge, in order to tie them in with the other items in this still life, which also have quite a lot of yellowy orange on them. So let's just do that. Oops. In order to tie it in and harmonise the painting. Do it as I go. Okay. A little bit of yellow at the top of the tail there. The butter, haven't done the butter. It's very sort of pale yellow. So just a hint. And this will be a case of a bit of negative painting. Okay, second layer. This is all drying nicely. Now to mix a brown, I've still got 3 primary colours. I'm not going to come in and use another colour at this stage. I'm going to use just the 3 primaries to gain the brown, the sort of soft browns of the eggshell and the crust. And then start darkening some of the other colours that I see and other tones that I see in this still life to bring the forms out. So if I mix my 3 primary colours in such a way, or until you get a soft brown, you'll see it's quite possible. If I was on a desert island and someone said, right, what 3 colours could you take, would you like to take with you, it would definitely be the 3 primary colours, because from that you can make all sorts of colours. I'm going to put a bit more red into this front brown at the front here, which will liven up this eggshell and create a more three-dimensional eggshell so that that's coming right forward. Incidentally, these are my own chickens that have laid the eggs, so the yolks are lovely and rich, almost orangey yellow. There's a bit of rim coming around here. And then the bread. Again, I quite like this mix of colour, so I'm going to put it on the rim. Sorry, the crust of the bread. Like that. Coming around here, there's hints of it along the back, but not too much. You still want to lay the piece of bread down. If you make it too hot and orangey at the back, the piece of bread will try and become vertical within your painting. Same for the egg lid there. And let's put a little bit on here. Dulled it down a little bit with a little extra blue so that it's not so warm, and it'll send it back. So it's a little bit bluer, still a crust, a little bit like that. And while I've got that sort of bluey brown, I'm going to touch a little bit in the side here because it's still wet, and that will make the eggshell go around, and a little bit here too, because that's actually a darker crust than the front here. But it's going to make it a little bit more bluey, but it will give the feeling that it's A in shade and B going around the back here a little bit. The bread itself is sort of it's not white as such, but it's a very pale sort of buff colour. Let's try and put some in. Not too strong, so a little tiny bit coming in around the butter. Little irregular marks because there are air holes within the bread. And this is in shadow down here, so I'm going to bring in a little bit more mauviness to the dark. So that will give you a sense, and a little bit more shadow here actually. And then with this colour on my brush, which is sort of a dullish purple, I can come in and do a little bit deeper tone of shadow coming around. Let's get a bit of blue, make it a bit bluey as it goes around the back. And a little bit of a lip, and then it comes out behind. And when you paint negatively like this with the shadow, it cuts out the object next to it, which is in this case lighter, so we've got dark against light, and this is quite a helpful method of making something come forward and perhaps you've lost it already into the background, so that's quite useful to do. Let's cover that up a bit. Okay, let's get a little bit more shadow coming in, a bit more darks under here. Grey it down a slight bit so that it's not too bright. Seem to have lost the butter on my bread, so let's make that a bit stronger. I'll try and smear it across as if I'm smearing it on with with a knife. There we go. Pale it down, you can just lift it off again. Let's enrich the egg itself. It is a lovely rich colour. And then the white of the egg will stay as it is, of course, because that's the white of the paper. There's a bright yolk here, and in the edge of the spoon here. Let's enrich the orange juice while we're at it, with a sweep of the brush on its side. And then I'm going to do some vertical marks, just to make it look like it's in a glass. And let's cool it down with a tiny bit of lemon. Sometimes that helps, just to cool down that gamboge, because I want this to be recessive at the back. As it comes here, it can come round a bit. There's a few reflective marks within the surface of the orange juice. Soften that off a bit with a damp brush. Okay. And let's get the dark up again, which is the deep purple, the alizarin crimson, the cobalt blue in this case, and grey it down if you wish with a bit of yellow, just to get a really nice dark. I can come in, pepper and salt there, slightly more richer edge to that, a slightly richer edge to this, and the shadows, so that it becomes more highlit. And then of course the spoon, the silver spoon, that's not going to be so easy. But a lot of it is about painting the dark marks on the reflective spoon. And that way you'll get a form. Okay, it goes a bit darker in here as it goes under the egg. And then it's quite dark under here, the end of the spoon. Okay, let's just loosen this up. A little bit more oomph to that shadow in the plate. This then outlines the back of the teacup, the teacup, egg cup I mean. Okay. So I need to come in a little darker on the salt and pepper chickens and on the orange juice. So rather lost at the moment. So with glass, all I'm going to do is just do the darks, leaving light, of course, otherwise it will just look so dull. So let's bring in some sharp marks around the rim. Which will give you a feeling of the glass, hopefully. A little bit of that. And this is a chance to cut around the chicken's head as well, with the dark marks that are in the base of this cup. or couple glass, whatever you like to call it. So let's cut around this chicken's head a little bit. And those marks are quite harsh, so I'm just going to soften them down with a damp brush. And then they've still got to go round in an ellipse, like that. But again, lost and found edges, they don't all have to be filled in with the dark. And there's a slight meniscus dark going round. Maybe I'll put a little bit more orange into my pigment there. Just a slight bit. It helps if you've got a good point on your brush, of course. These are just synthetic Escoda brushes from Barcelona, and I find them very effective at holding water and keeping a nice point. But once they lose their point, it's time to ditch and get some new brushes. This one's just about alright. Let's bring in some darker shadows, which come from reflection of this plate and all the stuff here, so that would make a little sense. And then I might put in a few vertical lines to give the sense of surface around the glass, around the orange juice rather, like that. Now there's also a surface red going around the back, so we don't have to do too much to this, but it needs to faintly appear. If I make it too strong, it's going to leak forward. So it's a softer grey, it's not as vibrant as the purpley blue I put in the front, it's just a soft grey going around the back. And again, there's a slight meniscus going on. You know, you can help it by just doing that. I'll just run off. Sometimes you make mistakes, but you get the general idea. Okay, so coming on to the chickens. Let's make it dark again. Still using the three primary colours I started with. Let's grey them down and make quite a strong dark. So this was going to really show where they are. These are quite in the shade. Again, they're quite reflective surfaces because they're glazed. So I have to be aware of that and try and portray not the easiest things to paint, but let's put a bit of blue in there, a bit of vibrancy across the top. Sometimes vibrancy, vibrant colours will bring things forward. So this chicken is clearly in front of the other one, and that might help just by putting a bit of bright blue, the cobalt blue that I've been using. And again, I've got to do the same with this one. Okay. Let's just put a bit of behind this chicken. A bit of dark behind this one's neck and into its head. And that light's just shafting through the middle of the two of them. Okay. Let's put a bit of shade under the plate. Mixing primary colours up. And a bit of a purpley mix, but more bluey than purple, because we're going quite orangey with the yellow. And then run a shadow underneath. Luckily, well actually I've got quite a multi-polar shadow light going on in this room. And try and do it in one sweep if you can. Okay. And cutting out the edge. To help a bit more negative painting again. Of course that will be a little bit more, touch of yellow sometimes works. Just to liven up those shadows and make the reflective light come through the middle there from the orange. We've lost this edge a little bit, so let's address that by putting a tiny bit of pale blue around the back. And washing it away. In fact, it's gone a bit yellow because I didn't wash my brush out properly. But that tiny bit of blue will help highlight that little bit of light on the corner of on the edge of the plate there. And then this is got to touch in here just to highlight the egg.